What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Aquilon here, and of course, welcome back to each and every one of you. We're talking about the Evoker's third spec. It's been basically the topic of speculation for months now, really ever since Dragonflight launched. So we're going to be going through a lot of new things, new developments that has happened and will happen. Actually, it has happened because it's on the PTR, but it will only happen once the game goes live for most of the player base. But we're going to be talking about that, some voice lines, and then we're just going to be talking about the lore implications of a third spec. And of course, I will give you my opinion on what a third spec for the Evoker would look like, what the likelihood is of a third spec for the Evoker. But before we do that though, may I just very quickly say thank you so much to all of the patrons, the YouTube members, and of course, the Twitch subs. Your support is always very much appreciated. More on how to support the channel at the end of the video. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk Evoker third spec. Now, I first started talking about the Evokers and something being amiss before Dragonflight even launched. I remember live on stream, me and chat went through the talent trees, the builds for the Evoker, and something that stood out to me at the time and something that I still openly asked chat was, where is the black Dragonflight essence? We're told that the Dracthyr was created using the essence of all of the flights, and now, thanks to Maligos's servants, we know that something extra may have been used. So it was the 5 Dragonflight essences, but then also something else, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Not going to go into too much detail, but we will talk about that a little bit. But the Black Dragon Essence was pretty much missing. It wasn't there. At the time, most people told me, nah, Aquilon, you don't know what you're talking about. It's in the utility side, clearly. You know, it's where the class tree is. That's where you find the Black Dragon Essence. Now, in 10.07, with Adamanthia's questline, we learned that the Black Dragon Essence was actually extracted from the Dracthyr. But there's actually more to it than that, and that's really where the voice lines that I want to talk about today come in. So these voice lines are actually from 10.1, and it is Nalfarian himself that is speaking here, and he says, "You three shall be the examples all Dracthyr will follow. Sarkareth, my devastator, you shall rend your foes with the powers of the red and the blue Dragonflight. Viridia, my preserver, you shall heal our allies with the graces of green and bronze Dragonflights. And Emberthal, you will wield the essence of the black Dragonflight to augment all those around you with my power. By my command, kneel and obey." Now, there's some huge things in these voice lines. Number one, the Black Dragon Essence, or Emberthal, is confirmed to be a support spec, not, as it were, as most people suggested, a tank spec. You will wield the essence of the Black Dragonflight to augment all those around you with my power. So augment is to change, it is to add, it is to transform, in a way, during the battle. So the Black Essence, Emberthal, now, this is where it gets actually a little sad. Emberthal's entire clutch was wiped out, or Kresh was wiped out. Remember, she was she took the brunt of the attacks. Emberthal is the only one left, and it's actually sadder than what you might think, because during the 10.07 questline, I still made a big deal of this during live stream, where we were playing through the questline, and Emberthal at one point in one of the crashes, she says, "Everyone is looking for something. Most of the Dracthyr are looking for a reason. Where do we belong? Why do we exist? Why did Nalfarian abandon us? Why did he put us in stasis?" That's what they're looking for. They're looking for answers. And then Emberthal, very throwaway line almost, says, "But for me," and then she pauses, And she goes, what I'm looking for is not year. And at the time, I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't understand, but why does this sound so profound? And yet I'm not entirely sure why. And now I understand. What Emberthal is looking for has been removed from her. Remember Adamanthia? We spoke about her a second ago. Adamanthia, in her pages to Nalfarian, explains how they finally managed to extract the Black Dragon essence from the Dracthyr. And we now know that Emberthal and her Kresh, they had the most. If all of the Dracthyr had some Black Dragon essence within them, Emberthal and her Kresh would probably have had the most in them. Now, let's just talk about the mechanics of this. I want to crush some dreams here. I don't think that Blizzard is setting us up for a third spec for Evoker. I'm sorry to say, the problem with that would be it's new ground. Blizzard has never introduced a spec in this way. Now, that's not evidence to say that they won't do that. In fact, I think it would be really cool, and it opens the door for specs for other classes to be added later in the game if they think of new specs that they could add. So there's nothing wrong with this from a mechanical standpoint, just the fact that it has never happened. More importantly, they've now kind of confirmed that this is a support spec. I don't know how people would feel about that, if I'm honest with you. I don't know if Blizzard were to announce a third Evoker spec, if players, and it turns out that it is a support spec, I think people would riot. The sad thing is, so many people have built up their own hate cannon and explained how they're clearly tanks, because the Black Dragon Essence clearly tank. I think a lot of people will lose their minds if Blizzard were to add a third spec, and that spec really is just an augmenter of sorts. I think it would be cool. Don't get me wrong. I think there are some incredible things that you can do with something like a support spec. Imagine being a Dracthyr flying around the battlefield, but instead of healing or dealing DPS, you're buffing people. You're throwing out, healing amplifiers and damage amplifiers and tank soakers and shit like that. I think it could be really cool, and I think you could build something really cool with it. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. What I think this is, and I definitely welcome it, and I really hope that this is a future that we can look forward to. I think it is a lore canonization of the missing spec. So rather than, like in the past, where Warlocks, for example, loses access to demon form. Sad day for everyone. Most Warlocks don't understand, and most Warlocks simply say, well, we lost demon form because they needed to give it to the demon hunter, which technically kind of true, but also, if you understood the lore of World of Warcraft, you would understand that demon form for Warlocks had never made sense. Never. If a Warlock finally goes into demon form, that Warlock has gone too far. There's no coming back after that. One of the key things that make the difference between a Warlock and a demon is the Warlock has the mental fortitude and the constraint to hold himself back, to not delve fully into the foul. Once a Warlock becomes a demon, they have dove fully into the foul, and it is too late now. Join Gul'dan, become part of the enemy. Basically, that's what it is, right? So there was a lore reason. Sadly, that lore reason was never actually explained in the game. This, and based on how the story's been for 10.0, and then now also for 10.07, the story is handled just absolutely magnificently. The way the writers are taking care of small, tiny, minute little details in just what I would call pure perfection it's welcomed. And yes, I think that's exactly what this is. I think this is Blizzard saying, right, let's at least give them a canonical reason for why there is no third Evoker spec. I might be wrong, and then I will eat my hat and also be very excited, because I do think a support spec can be kind of huge. Lore implication wise, learning the black dragons are actually augmenters. The black dragon magic has an augmenting quality to it. It helps make so much sense of everything else. It kind of explains all the experiments. You know, all of the other Dragonflights, they never experimented. They did their duty and they did their job. The black dragons were the only ones that couldn't stop. Because it wasn't just Naltharian, by the way. It was Naltharian. It was Adamanthia. You had, what's her name now? Sinestra. There are so many black dragons with examples of trying out things, experimenting on things, trying to build new things out of other things to augment, to change, to adapt. It kind of helps make sense of the whole thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think a third Evoker spec is possible? What do you think the lore implications of that would be? Or do you agree with me? Let me know in the comment section down below. Please remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you enjoy videos like this one, also hit the subscribe button. At least 40% of you isn't subscribed to the channel. So, you know, that would go a long way to helping out. Finally, to all of the patrons, YouTube members, and the Twitch subs, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your support. Without you, I would quite literally not be here. And for $1 a month, ladies and gentlemen, over on Patreon, you get access to all of the filth, the degeneracy, podcasts, and more. So please head over to that. And then you can also support us over on Twitch for live streams whenever. I don't really have a schedule, but when I'm live, and we can chat. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, be kind to each other. Be good to each other. And I will see all of you in the next one. Peace out, fam.